So why brand equity is still important? Our main topic that permeates the semester syllabus has been brand equity. The purpose was to understand what it means to master how it can be measured and why sustenance should be the main objective for strategic brand management, as well as the main driver for effectively planning and executing IMC programs. Brands are companies' most important assets. The bulk of revenue stems from brand loyal customers, those who prefer a brand in its category because they recognize it as different and they hold strong, unique, and favorable associations. This has been our mantra all along. Planning for brand equity and monitoring over time are the two sides of the same coin. Planning is an iterative process, and brand objectives depend on inputs from previous periods. In this syllabus, we reviewed various equity models, conceptual frameworks, and research methods, both quantitative and qualitative, academic, and practitioners. Our main conceptual platform was Keller's psychological model for the brand model structure, although introduction was made to alternative models, including cultural branding, brand storytelling, and community branding, online and offline, among others. By extension, our main equity model has been Keller Davis' brand resonance pyramid that was further extended to include advances in social media in the context of Keller and Swaminathan's brand engagement pyramid. Two main frameworks were analyzed for brand equity planning, from strategic brand management point of view, and strategic brand communications. On the other hand, the brand audit, which was complemented by the social media audit, according to Solomon and Dugan, and on the other hand, the IMC planning process. Each framework consists of 3 phases, namely planning, implementation, and control. However, the path to loyalty is numerated challenges. Most categories nowadays are partner-driven, meaning that consumers have more than one brand in their purchase roster. To make this even more complicated, as you may recall, the makeup roster is constantly redefined. It keeps changing, as the path to purchase is neither linear, nor does it stop at loyalty. As per McKinsey's revamped model, also endorsed by Keller and Batra in the revised IFC model, in the context of new media, the purchase funnel has varied points of entry, overlapping stages, and may be abruptly interrupted at any point. I explained how this may appear with regard to Google's sales funnel. Greater access to price and product comparison sites has increased the level of experimentation and has nurtured a promo hunting attitude. The pandemic accelerated the transition to predominantly e-commerce-oriented marketplace, where brands no longer compete on a local but on a global scale. Increased experimentation, coupled with greater access to competitive offers, will erode loyalty as we know it. And loyalty, based on the structural equation models that we went through, is the final step for attaining superior brand equity. Although this dynamic has changed in the context of social media, where advocacy is a final step that is converting consumers into brand evangelists or brand ambassadors. Therefore, equity is still important. However, the path to attaining has changed as regards to platforms, actors, facilitators, and barriers. Let's address each one of these in turn. Platforms. More communicated platforms than touchpoints than ever before for positively engaging consumers and for enhancing interaction with the brand's core values and key messages, its expressive inventory, and lifestyle elements. The plethora of these new vehicles have been accommodated by Solomon and Dugan under the 4 zones of social media, comprising social community vehicles, social publishing, social commerce, and social entertainment. Media proliferation along these lines is not the only challenge. As Swaminathan and Tom demonstrated, new vehicles are part of a hyper-connected world, which is characterized by networks of people, devices, and other entities that are continuously interacting and exchanging information. In this context, not only brands can become platformized, but machines have attained agentic status. On another note, the emergence and constant proliferation of social media platforms has enabled the measurement of engagement in real time and the optimization of promotional programs on the fly based on actual consumers' behavioral responses. However, purchase behavior and the path of fulfilling a purchase online tells us very little about the attitudinal state the consumers are in while making the purchase, as regards their relationship to the brand across the strata of the brand resonance pyramid. Actors. In many communicative cases, this is the main predicament of social media, as very called the transition from one-to-many, one-to-one, and many-to-many. The types of intermediaries who are responsible for building equity have changed, including comparison sites, aggregators, influencers, and a host of affiliates. In the social media terrain, the new case of influencers has been catapulted to a core target group alongside end consumers, which is something that you has very reflected, I think, very succinctly in your presentations as well. Most of you opted for including influencer marketing, which I think is a very wise choice. Likewise, the way whereby influencers communicate with consumers has changed as regards techniques and modes of engagement. The same intermediation pattern holds in terms of the transposition of influencing power across the path to purchase from the brand as the center of emission of brand communications to retailers. Retailer equity is a significant driver for subsequently placing trust and preference on brands. The growth of Amazon is a living proof of this. However, multi-intermediaries, the mediation in terms of influencers, has been counterbalanced in certain respects by disintermediation as regards to additional roles, such as that of the media show. Brand management now has at its disposal media scheduling tools that allow for controlling in-house which messages will be delivered to whom, where, when. Moving on to facilitators and barriers, the key for understanding and answering whether brand equity is sustainable in this rapidly shifting communicative milieu lies in understanding how the creation of brand meaning works. One among others foresees in marketing to all. Co-creation is a key concept, as defining and semantic differentiation point of understanding between pre-marketing to all and post-marketing to all as well. Although creation was praised when it was initially conceptualized in marketing academic circles, it didn't take long before it gave place to more realistic approaches about negative co-creation and co-destruction of brand meaning. The very term co-destruction connotes the ascription of negative meanings to brands. I analyze this process both in terms of both negative balancing and negative valorization. And since brand meaning is directly related to brand associations, which make up brand equity, from a CBB point of view, co-destruction is tantamount to equity erosion. Although Keller rightly stresses that the richness of brand associations is related to that involvement with the brand, it should always be borne in mind that excessive richness is bound to be destructive vis-a-vis core brand promise, a core brand essence, that is what I've been calling all along a brand's semantic kernel. Therefore, managed brands in the new social media terrain necessitates that we are equipped with the requisite tools for monitoring whether co-destruction of brand meaning is reaching critical levels that may threaten a company's most valuable assets with permanent erosion. As I've been insisting in this course, social listening tools, semantic assessment and analysis do not suffice in managing population brand communities, but also in the broader manifestations of user-generated content. We are surely capable of building top-line indicators. However, in order to render this data actionable, we need to apply macroanalytic techniques such as discourse analysis. Do the above entail that the battle for attaining brand equity has been lost and that the role of brand management has been restrained? On the contrary, these are even more exciting and demanding times for brand management, but also a time for thinking and making things different than competitors is key. This means that previously esteemed standardized solutions and boutique methodologies no longer apply. In this context, what is the role of marketing communications in building strong brands in an increasingly social media dependent environment? Undoubtedly, the role of traditional media is waning in the space of digital and marketing. However, as shown by Hilda and Binay, traditional media are still selling on different levels of different segments. It's not a case of managing transition, it's more a case of managing transition rather than an abrupt abandonment. Besides, with very few exceptions, the majority of digital marketing communications vehicles constitute an evolution and transformation of previous commercial outlets, communicative outlets, rather than radical discontinuities, as would be, for example, telepathic communication and verbally unmediated and purely dependent on the mutual recognition of brainwave patterns. That would be a discontinuous mode of communication versus how we have been communicating thus far. This is not the case with social media. Social media have not reinvented the market's wheel. They're just an extension and adaptation to new technological platforms. They're not even exhaustive of the touch points available to marketers, especially as regards the increasing demand for experiential events and for merging off and offline, which is expected to materialize in Web 4.0, that is the metaverse. From an effectiveness point of view, the requirements in MC planning still remain the same. The need for comparing and contrasting all candidate vehicles in an MC plan against the 4 E's and 4 C's and the 4 I's of engagement in social media. The need for subjecting all vehicles under scrutiny in the context of the Rakosi model, as well as the need for assessing the degree of integration of the different executions in an MC plan and vehicles that make part of an MC plan. Mean integration concerns the ability to identify how different vehicles in an MC plan complement each other in the attainment of the same communicated goal. The problem is that although now, in the face of planning platforms such as IPA's touchpoint integration, we may account for such synergies at a vehicle level, however, we may not account for them at the third planning level, that is, the specific creative use of each video. This is due, on the one hand, to the fact that direct elicitation methods for coaching recall do not apply to standard vehicles for consumers, but also that some of these creative uses are not even recognized by consumers as partaking of marketing communication vehicles. For example, influencers. They're not recognized by consumers as being marketing communication vehicles, but as previously the social media network. On the other hand, given the carryover and cumulative effect of media usage, it is not easy to isolate the relative impact of specific creative uses of vehicles in the attainment not only of single purchase, but even more importantly, repurchase, which is an even more narrowly related proxy indicator of equity. The need for selecting all vehicles against both consumers' stage in their purchase decision-making journey and the brand's communication objectives, what Keller and Bartlett have called the top-down and bottom-up approach to MC planning, still remains the same and is even more emphatically required, as well as the need for mapping KPIs to the marketing funnel and the customer journey, for identifying the most pertinent metrics per vehicle and creative use for each vehicle for gauging the effectiveness and efficiency of their use in both planning and control terms, and for respecting the tripartite planning hierarchy that we went through in this syllabus, that is channel, vehicle, and creative use of video. This is the third level on which planning and implementation control should be taking place rather than abstractly, that is TV or social media in general. And for comparison purposes as well. And the need for tying up communication objectives with the strata of the brand resonance pyramid. Finally, the need for addressing a digital class effectiveness in the context of a broader IMC effectiveness framework that includes the three pillars as per the interactive advertising peers guidelines, namely media, brand, and sales effectiveness, thus addressing both short-term activation-related objectives with long-term equity-building objectives. If you remember, there was a key issue that was identified with Philippine in their IPA new media study, and most importantly, addressing the barriers to doing so. In conclusion, brand equity is still the ultimate performance criterion of whether a brand can withstand the test of time. However, safeguarding in the face of rapidly shifting technologies, we must adopt an integrationist approach, in which context digital markets should be viewed as part of the broader strategic considerations, rather than as a discontinuously related terrain with regard to marketing as we know it. And this effectively concludes our session and our syllabus. Thank you very much for joining me over these 6 months. Any questions before we conclude for tonight?
No.